I mean, it's pretty simple. Investors are the ones with the money. So I don't need to really sugarcoat it any more than that, to be honest with you. I like working with startups. I like the energy that was around them, so that was kind of like a passion. But I met with Steve, who's a startup lawyer in Pittsburgh, and very much another FJ Lucchino as well, and told me very quickly, you can't develop a practice just working with startups. So I looked towards more financing, more investors, more banks. Banks, obviously, because they have the money. Again, I kind of just followed the money, and I think getting out and networking more and starting to speak with more startups and bringing them on to my client base, I think the thing that really sticks with me a lot with working with startups is that you have to kind of create your own space for them. They have to kind of grow in their own way and what they see their vision to be. A lot of times I've had situations where I'm trying to not necessarily convince a client to take an investor's money, but not understanding why they won't take an investor's money. And again, you have to kind of give them the space to say no if that's what they feel comfortable with, if that's not what their growth plan is, if that's not where they see their company being, or if they don't really agree with the terms, et cetera. Kind of not being frustrated about that, and that's kind of something that I've really recently started to just let go, because it's obviously not my company, I'm just representing them, but it's just also something that I've had to kind of like do the calculus on it myself. Like, I would never turn down this amount of money. Well, you might if you felt like your vision was jeopardized. And I think on the other side of the opportunity zones, I was just offered these funds in the end of 2008. It was honestly, I think, still happenstance, but the more and more that I've been able to learn about the space and become involved in the space, it's such a new emerging space, shall we say, that I can kind of create a competitive edge, versus if I was dealing with people that have been in law for 20 and 30 years, I feel like I would be less competitive. But because it's a new law, I can feel like a little bit more competitive in that space. And honestly, I think that it doesn't help to have a black face doing it. I'm just being honest with you. I think that goes a long way, because you're operating in places that are like distressed areas. So I think that, but also being intentional about why we're going into these spaces. The work that we're doing in Braddock is specifically developing entrepreneurs and tech VCs and people that can code and then be employed by these businesses that we're incubating in the space in Braddock. Similarly, in Homewood, they have the Own Your Own, which is a new African-American only incubator that's coming out, and working with them, again, it's really, to me, about creating spaces for people to feel comfortable doing what it is that they feel like doing. And I think part of that is self-actualization, knowing who they are when they're going into that space. A lot of the startups that I have now, the thing that I would say is their strength is that they do know who they are when they're coming into that space, whatever it is that they're operating in, whether that's healthcare, whether that's daycare, or if that's video production, or even tech. They're very comfortable with what they are and who they are and operating in those spaces, and then just honestly trying to create the legal framework for them to do that in the most comfortable way, so that you're not putting them into a compromising position.